You make $63,000 a year, yet your savings account sits at a fraction of that. Meanwhile, your credit card statement is a blur of $40 food delivery charges and impulse buys from Target. This happens because the modern consumer economy is engineered to remove all friction from the act of buying. One-click purchases, auto-pay, and tap-to-pay are explicitly designed to make spending completely thoughtless. Decades ago, high-volume shopping required physical effort. You had to navigate massive department stores, interact with cashiers, and physically hand over cash. Today, the physical effort is gone, and the conscious brain sleeps through the transaction. This chart tracks the consequences. The blue line shows the U.S. savings rate flatlining at a dismal 4%. Japanese households have done exactly this for generations, using a very specific set of analog habits to build wealth quietly. Frictionless spending is a neurological trap. Intentional friction forces you to wake up and take control of your resources. In 1904, Japan's first female journalist, Hani Motoko, invented Kakeibo. It is a handwritten household ledger designed to give women financial autonomy using nothing but a notebook and a pen. The act of physically writing down a purchase forces your brain to process it consciously. You have to decide, on paper, whether a $42 takeout order was a genuine need or a momentary want. That cognitive friction interrupts the impulse cycle. Once you track the money, you change how you allocate it. Most Americans spend what they earn and attempt to save whatever is left over. The Japanese habit of choking reverses the sequence. You save a designated portion first and spend what remains. This sequence interrupts the effects of Parkinson's law of money, which dictates that spending will always expand to fill the available balance, like gas filling a room. On the left, the standard model shows income flowing entirely into spending. On the right, the Chokin model immediately diverts 20% into savings, forcing the spending volume to actively shrink to fit the smaller remaining space. As we project this out over 20 years, the graph shows two drastically different realities. On an average salary, saving first builds a compounding total nearly $470,000 higher than the spend first approach. Both Kakeibo and Chokin operate on the same mechanical principle. They force you to actively engage with your money before it leaves, rather than passively tracking a deficit after it's gone. The emotional triggers of spending require a different set of tools. Hara hachi is a Confucian teaching widely practiced in Okinawa that advises eating until you are 80% full. Applied to your finances, it means living on 80% of your income to create intentional breathing room, rather than feeling deprived. That extra space is protected by Wabi-sabi, an aesthetic philosophy that appreciates the imperfect and the worn. Instead of upgrading a phone with a scratched screen or replacing a slightly flattened couch, you find satisfaction in the fact that they still serve their purpose. Replacing perfectly good items triggers a concept called Mottainai. This is the deep cultural shame associated with wasting a useful resource. Acknowledging Mottainai prompts you to freeze leftovers, repair clothing, and actively eliminate the thousands of dollars the average household throws away in food and textiles every year. When you stop buying things, you also have to stop buying entertainment. Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is the practice of finding restoration in nature for free. It demonstrates how leisure and socializing can exist independently from financial transactions. Shifting your emotional baseline from requiring constant upgrades to respecting what you already hold closes the psychological leaks that a standard budget can never catch. Willpower is a finite resource, so these habits rely on purpose instead. Ikigai is your specific reason for being. When you define exactly what your money is supposed to achieve, like being present for your child's early years, impulse purchases stop being tempting. They become irrelevant. Without purpose, people rely on radical budget cuts. Slashing your spending by 50% overnight triggers your brain's amygdala. It perceives the sudden restriction as a biological threat, activating resistance that eventually causes the entire budget to collapse. You bypass the amygdala using Kaizen, the practice of continuous 1% improvement. You reduce dining out by 10% this month. Next month, you cancel a single forgotten subscription. These microscopic changes fly completely under the brain's threat radar, yet they accumulate over 12 months into a massive behavioral shift. Clear purpose, combined with these invisible, non-threatening improvements, overrides your natural biological resistance. the transition to long-term wealth building becomes automatic. Keeping this system aligned requires an annual reset called osuji. In Japan, this is the tradition of thoroughly cleaning the home at the end of the year to let go of what no longer serves you. Applied to money, it is a strict annual audit where you cancel creeping subscriptions, renegotiate bills, and rebalance your investments. The annual audit is supported by hansei, a monthly practice of honest, non-judgmental self-reflection. You review your handwritten ledger, identify what brought you genuine value, and define the exact Kaizen improvement you will make the following month. On a typical $60,000 salary, this gap is staggering. Over 30 years at an 8% return, the difference between saving 4% and 20% of your income is the difference between retiring with less than $300,000 or retiring with nearly $1.5 million. This kind of wealth does not announce itself. It requires no performative displays of status, no flashy vehicles, and no complicated side hustles. It is built quietly across decades, using strict analog discipline. True financial literacy is a profound respect for the resources you already have. You do not need a bigger paycheck to start building lasting security. You just need a notebook, a pen, and the willingness